What's up, guys? It's been a minute. Gonna be doing a surfboard repair today just because got my shop cleaned out a little bit. There we go. Alright, we're back in the shop. I haven't been back in here to work on a board in a couple of months. But today I am repairing one of my own boards. I gotta repair this board on top here. I don't know if it's recognizable, but it's a 5.9 diamond tail. It looks pretty close to my magic board. I still haven't ridden it yet, actually. The one time I took it down south to surf, it blew off the top of my car while I was getting another board out. It's a pretty windy day by the jetty, and it landed directly on the tail. You can't really see the damage, but it smashed the whole tail in, is the story. You can see the fiberglass is cracked to all hell. So we're gonna fix that today and hopefully get its first ride in. This is one of my first full boards, or this is my first blank that I shaped, not from an old surfboard. Still haven't surfed it, and I've already done a repair on it before because I dropped it. And this is repair number 2. So let's get to that. So I started off by sanding off some of the surface cracks with 60 grit sandpaper real quick, and then I could see what the real damage was. It exposes a lot of the fiberglass that's loose. I'm using a little razor blade to cut away any of the loose fiberglass pieces. Also, you can see me pressing along the edges to see if there's any rebound, and if you do find some rebound, that means that it's pulled away from the surfboard, and I found that it goes pretty far back. And I realized on this epoxy board I used a joint compound filler, and that there are these little chunks that are coming out from under the fiberglass, and I'm wondering if that's a big reason why this fiberglass is pulling away further back than it should be. If you've done a lot of work with filler compound, let me know if this is a common issue with it. Anyways, I'm using 60 grit paper here to feather down the edges of the fiberglass again, so the resin has some rough surfaces to adhere to. For this repair, I'm using some leftover epoxy resin. It's almost a year old, but it shouldn't be a problem. We'll find that out later. So I mixed up the resin with the hardener. It's 2-part resin, 1-part hardener, and then I added some Cavasil. My scale is out of batteries, so I'm just eyeballing it here. I forgot to create a tape dam so that the resin won't run everywhere, so I wiped everything off and added some tape to create the dam. Wipe that off, create a dam, just like that. Okay, dam is created. Just need to wait for that to harden. I put it on a more level surface so it hardens without any divots in there. So after a few hours, I found that the resin was mostly cured, but still a little springy and soft, and adhered to the tape pretty good. So I cut the tape back, and I don't work with epoxy as much as I do with polyester resins. It felt like it was cured enough to start working with, but couldn't figure out why it was still relatively soft. It was soft enough where I could use my microplane to cheese grade it mostly flat before I finished it off with 120 grit sandpaper. So I'm not sure if I messed up the ratio for the Cavasil and the resin, or also it could have something to do with not having an exact measured out ratio of the resin to hardener, or if I should have just waited longer. So this is the fast kick epoxy as well. So 3 hours I feel like should have been sufficient. Let me know in the comments below if you have any theories as to why this happened in this repair. Alright, now I'm using 2 6-ounce fiberglass patches to put over the resin fill, and as you can see, the bottom patches died. That's just some scrap pieces I was experimenting with, and I'll probably have a video about that at some point in the future. Anyways, I used the same epoxy resin, but this time I eyeballed in a little more hardener. After a few hours I checked and it was still a little tacky, and I had to take my dog out for a walk, so I let it cure overnight. Alright, it's the next day now, and I'm using 60 grit sandpaper to feather the edges, and I followed that with hand sanding using 120 grit. Currently, my air compressor is not in the shop because I've been doing a lot of work on the house, so I'm using the sticky side of the tape to remove as much of the dust as I can. I taped off the area for a hot coat and applied the hot coat using some light cross strokes to evenly spread the resin. If I had additive F, this is when I would want to add it. It helps prevent fisheyes and makes the sanding process a lot easier. You want to go in both directions when you're doing the cross strokes and make sure you're doing gentle pressure to not lose all your resin to the floor. A few hours later, it's time to sand again. I used 120 grit on the power sander and also hand sanded using 120 grit. While I'm sanding and doing the next hot coat, I have a little update on the direction of this channel. I've come to the realization that there's not a big market for surfboards in Portland, which makes sense because it's just under 2 hours from any surfable break. And I see a lot of surfboards sitting on the marketplace, including mine, for months on end. Ones that should cost around $1,000 in most other places, and it'll start out at a higher cost, and after months of collecting dust, the price is cut multiple times until it's less than half of where it started. So for this reason, I'm planning to shape less boards on this channel, maybe 1 or 2 a month, and start documenting some builds around my Forerunner, which of course I use for surfing and camping and other adventures. I also continue to do vlogs around surfing and other adventures in the area, and lastly, I'm planning to rebrand my channel to reflect the changes I just mentioned. So hopefully you guys stick around and continue to watch me grow through my YouTube journey. But if not, I'm still very thankful for your support in my journey to where I am now. Alright, let's see how this board turned out. It's not the prettiest fix, but it should work. If you guys made it this far, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for other content, which will likely include me surfing this board at some point.